So I'm not sure who was here last year and who saw the lightning talks. I have never seen it, so I'm fascinated to watch this forum for doing the pitch. So for those of you who don't know, we have 4 contenders, I think, is it Lorna, 4, that are going to come in one by one. They have 5 minutes to do their pitch, talk about their case or idea, and they will be introducing themselves in succession. Les présentations éclairs seront faites dans l'ordre indiqué dans le programme. And again, I'll ask that each of the presenters, I think, have to stop by the technology booth, or the tech booth, just to get their mic if they don't have one already. That's my understanding. So after the talk, the lightning talks, we are going to segue right into lunch. We have about an hour for lunch. And when we reconvene at 1, we will be joined by Dr. Don Lenehan. And so I'm looking for Jake Arsenault, the Black Aces, if Jake is here. Pardon? Black Arcs, sorry. Are you Jake with the Black Arcs? That's either like a punk band or a card thing. I don't know what it is, but thank you, Jake. Come on up.
So it's 5 minutes, right? So I'm Jake Arsenault. I'm with the Black Arcs. We're aspiring B Corp, currently in the Pondus Sponde Center's B for Change Accelerator. So this is a lightning update we presented last year. So since last year, we've done over 100 interviews, so different levels of government, civil servants, professionals, intellectuals. And based on that, we learned a lot about the connections between municipal planning and the far-reaching impacts it has on everybody. And based on these discussions, I think we found what our focus is, are the problem we're trying to solve and the solution we're working on. And in a nutshell, it's town hall meets flight simulator. And the reason for that, it's you know, the problem is that everything has a price. Sometimes that's not visible. Let me give you an example. So this is one example of a hot topic, of many hot topics. So say you have a school, downtown school, end of life. And it's, you know, you got to repair it or replace it. If you look at the infrastructure lens, it might be cheaper to say, okay, we're going to rebuild outside the school. All right, so that makes sense in that silo or viewpoint. But then you look at the operating costs. So now you might have to, based on the layout, you might have to bus a lot of students all over the place. So that has a cost. So long term, maybe it's not such a good decision when you look at that piece. But then there's another piece, another lens. Look at the social costs. So let's say your child, single parent, no car, and now you're being bused all over the place. It might be that you no longer have the option of doing some after-school programs, so sports, let's say. So you have a school that's designed to build up kids, no longer serving a section. So everything has a price. Sometimes it's hidden. What we're focused on, and I guess the root of this issue, right, is silos. So every area has domain experts with deep knowledge and professional analytical tools. And you need them because these are complex issues. I think the challenge is to see the trade-offs that span the silos. So the trade-offs to span the silos. So what could look like in one silo as a great decision turns out to be like a payday loan, long term. What we're focused on is having an online tool that makes these trade-offs visible. So in a nutshell, it's like SimCity, but it's your city. So we really want to bring analytics, so predictive analytics that live in institutions. We want to bring that into the household where people can see the trade-off. And the idea of this solution is it's a tool to be used for local governance to be part of the engagement process. So it can be a tool used in the discussions, and the discussions of people in cities is how great cities get planned. So it's a tool to support this process. So, you know, we want to bring models to the discussion. And I think, you know, well, why models and what's the point? What's the big deal about models? So I'm going to give you an example. So this is a climate model. So could you start the simulation or start the model? And I think the thing you have to know about models to use them properly, and this is a quote from a statistician, a famous quote, all models are wrong. Some are useful. So with this model, you can't tell what the weather will be like 30 days from now. It's not possible because of chaos theory. But what you can do is see the personality of the system. This is a simulation. You can see hurricanes, you can see typhoons. But the power of it is I could take a model like this, You could move Africa next to, say, North America, and you'd have a sense of, you can pluck it and move it, and you'd have a sense of, well, what's the personality of this new world? So it's a tool to use, this is how it's used in science. So we're not focused on weather models, we're focused on city models. Next slide, please. This is what we're building. This is the design of Intersect. And we're focused on transit. So transit impacts you even if you don't think about it. So this is a civic model. It's based on people. Those dots are people. They have options and they make decisions, and you see it happen and can watch it, just like the weather model. We're focused on transit, where you can see the trade-off between ridership and coverage. So that's a key issue with transit. That's a fundamental trade-off that has to be made. You can play the game, so you can set the route, you set the properties, you drop buses onto those routes, and then you watch it run like the weather model. When it's done, you can look at metrics and see how this system behaves. We can add layers to it, where it could go back to you've got a student, they need a key service, like say after school planning. If they don't have that option, it could be made visible, and it could show up like, say, the red dots show people that don't have access to key services. So we make things visible. Thank you.
My name is Gail Campbell, and my talk is called Patients First, Designing a Better System of Hospital Care for the Elderly. In joining the Canadian Medical Association's Demand a Plan campaign, aging Canadians are asserting that seniors themselves must be engaged in developing policies to improve standards for the care and treatment of the elderly in homes, hospitals, and long-term care facilities. With a small and diverse population, New Brunswick is well positioned to serve as a laboratory for the country as a whole. An aging population need not be an economic burden that overwhelms the healthcare system. Here is an opportunity for growth and innovation. In 2014, a BC forum invited experts from 7 countries to discuss best practices in senior healthcare. Their research showed that disability in old age is triggered by episodic events. Health decline is not gradual, but punctuated by medical events which threaten independence. Yet timely access to services can aid in recovery from such events. Re-enablement programs after an acute event can maximize the client's long-term independence. Best practice dictates that seniors be accorded equality of access to health care. Younger people recovering from acute events are enabled to return home as soon as possible. Not so with elderly patients, even those who functioned well at home before entering hospital. Elderly people who fall may have immediate and successful surgery to deal with a broken pelvis, hip, or femur, and they may make a successful recovery from that surgery. Yet they are often condemned to life in bed or a wheelchair for lack of appropriate therapies during their recovery period. Getting them up and active is vital. A U.S. study found that 30 to 60% of older people experience functional decline when hospitalized for acute events. 1 year after hospital discharge, less than 50% of older adults have regained pre-illness levels of functioning. Complications associated with low mobility levels for seniors include muscle mass wasting of 2 to 5% per day. Failure to recover functional mobility results in increased risk for falls, greater dependency on others, diminished quality of life, the likelihood of increased hospital stays, and an increased risk of placement in a long-term care facility. Functional decline during hospitalization can be prevented with prompt intervention by professionals. Best practices in hospitals should include consultation with patient and family members to determine what activities the patient wants to resume and the integration of these goals into the care plan. Members of the hospital care team must encourage and promote a return to normal function through mobilizing and activities of daily living. Often, an initial assessment by a physiotherapist, followed by interventions by rehabilitation assistants and care aides, prove adequate to enable seniors to regain function. Mainly, this involves taking a help-you-do-for-yourself approach. in matters of toileting, bathing, and dressing, rather than a do-for approach to care. Crucially and sadly, nursing staff who are more trained to do for don't have the time to support and encourage functional independence that takes longer in the short term. Yet benefits of this approach include decreased length of stay in hospital, decreased costs of health care, and improved patient and family satisfaction. The gap I am not addressing is that often the medical world treats the fracture but doesn't treat the cause of the fall that resulted in the fracture. Balance issues, confusion, and polypharmacy, among others. Here we need the holistic approach which geriatricians can supply. But nationally, there is a massive shortage of physicians in this field. Decline after a hip fracture may be due to more than the fracture itself. Maintaining independence requires early intervention. And early intervention involves recognizing the significance of strength and balance exercises to prevent falls. Canadian researchers generally agree that Denmark has developed the most successful model of senior care. There, the home care workforce is highly trained and well paid. Incentives to people to enter this field include opportunities for further training built into a career trajectory. The Danish model revolves around choice and prevention, with people over 75 receiving 2 checkups a year from a public health nurse. For those recovering from acute events, the emphasis centers on rehabilitation, regaining lost abilities, and help oneself programs. Long-term care homes are more like group homes than large institutions. Denmark spends close to 10% of its GDP in healthcare, and its citizens are the highest taxed in the European Union. People are willing to pay because they believe in a high standard of living and a high standard of care. New Brunswick could lead the way in developing a plan for seniors. A bold strategy of higher funding in the short term for the sake of lower costs in the long term is needed. Frequent assessments and early intervention are beneficial. Services should be tailored to the needs of individual people, and goals should be defined by patients, family, and informal caregivers rather than service providers. Well-trained workers, carefully developed individual plans, and subsidized home care delivery can enable people to remain independent for longer and, though initially costly, will save the healthcare system money in the long term and result in happier, more productive population for New Brunswick.
Hi, bonjour, mon nom est Sophie Lacroix. Je travaille au ministère de l'Éducation du Nouveau-Brunswick et du développement de la petite enfance. I will speak French because it's 2015. So if you need translation services, you know what to do. So, je vais vous parler de la politique d'aménagement linguistique et culturel, qui est un véritable projet de société pour la communauté acadienne et francophone. Donc, en bref, ce que je vais vous parler du contexte de cette politique-là, de ce que c'est. Je vais aussi parler du processus d'élaboration et de la mise en œuvre. Donc, politique d'aménagement linguistique et culturel, ce sont de gros mots. Qu'est-ce qu'on veut dire par ça, tout simplement? C'est comment les partenaires en éducation, autant communautaires que gouvernementaux, vont travailler ensemble pour assurer la protection, la valorisation et aussi la transmission de la langue et de la culture francophone. Donc, en bref, la raison d'être de cette politique-là, c'est d'assurer la double mission de notre système éducatif. Donc, on a 2 missions dans le système. Il y a le système anglophone a sa mission. Nous, on a la nôtre, qui est vraiment d'assurer la construction de l'identité linguistique et culturelle et aussi la réussite éducative, donc la réussite dans toutes les facettes de la vie de la personne. Et aussi, pourquoi? Pour contribuer au développement durable, oui, de la communauté acadienne et francophone, mais aussi à celui de la province du Nouveau-Brunswick. Parce que renforcer les capacités des francophones, ça va être toute la province qui va être gagnante. Donc, le contexte dans lequel c'est écrit, je n'ai pas besoin de tout mentionner, mais vraiment, le nombre de francophones diminue d'année en année. Nos nombres d'élèves, en 30 ans, nous avons perdu 39 % de nos élèves. La dynamique créée par les couples anglophones francophones, donc on reçoit des jeunes qui ne parlent qu'anglais dans nos écoles, donc ça crée une dynamique à l'école. Et aussi l'insécurité linguistique. On a des jeunes qui sont très mal à l'aise de parler français devant d'autres francophones aussi. Donc, en bref, cette politique-là, c'est environ 200 pages et elle est traduite aussi. Ce que c'est vraiment un projet de société et c'est un contrat social entre la communauté et le gouvernement. C'est un levier de changement. Ce sont des solutions aux défis de l'École de langue française. On a 5 axes d'intervention, donc on travaille sur la vitalité du système éducatif, sur l'identité linguistique et culturelle, sur la petite enfance aussi. On a tout un axe sur la petite enfance, la réussite éducative, le partenariat école-famille-communauté, 48 stratégies, des centaines de pistes d'action. Et aussi, elle n'est pas seulement portée par le gouvernement, elle est portée par l'ensemble des partenaires du système. Tout ça, ça a commencé en 2007. Donc, dans des premiers documents, on a vu la communauté inscrire ça dans leur réflexion. En 2009, nous avons eu la commission sur l'école francophone. Et suite à ça, nous avons créé un groupe qui s'appelle le GACEF et qui inclut autant des gens du système éducatif. On a les artistes, on a la Fédération des jeunes, on a l'Association des enseignants, le ministère de l'Éducation, les districts. Donc, tous ces gens-là se rassemblent 2 à 3 fois par année depuis 2009 pour travailler sur la commission, mais maintenant, nous travaillons sur cette politique-là. Ensuite, avec eux, avec ce groupe-là, on a créé la vision, les principes directeurs de cette politique-là. Et puis, on a mis sur pied 5 comités, un pour chaque axe que j'ai nommé précédemment. Et ces groupes-là se sont rencontrés 6 à 16 jours. Et il y avait environ 25 personnes par comité. Donc, je peux vous dire que c'était pas une consultation bidon, c'était un vrai travail collectif. Et ensuite, donc, on faisait vérifier nos synthèses auprès du GACEF. Donc, il y a plus de 200 leaders engagés qui ont participé à ce processus-là. On voit la communauté acadienne, je nommerai pas toutes les associations, les ministères partenaires et le système aussi éducatif, autant des élèves. Et donc, autour du processus, ce qu'on a appris à faire, moi, je dis qu'on a appris à faire notre lit ensemble, donc arrêter de tirer notre barre de couverte puis avoir une vision commune. On a aussi pris le temps de se connaître et de développer un langage commun. On a appris à concevoir comme un écosystème aussi, que chacune de nos actions engendrait des répercussions chez les autres aussi. Et on a construit tout ça par rapport à l'intelligence collective. Et ensuite, le tout a été déposé, on a déposé à l'Assemblée législative. Il y avait environ 200 partenaires qui étaient là pour le lancement. Et c'est vite 5 minutes. Et la mise en œuvre, elle est déjà commencée. Donc, elle a commencé sur un nouveau gouvernement et quand ça a été adopté à l'Assemblée législative, c'était adopté comme un projet apolitique. Donc, il allait continuer, peu importe quel gouvernement était en place. Donc, tout de suite, on est en train de travailler sur une stratégie de marketing social. Donc, moi, je fais des présentations un peu partout et on travaille avec une firme de communication aussi. Tous les partenaires sont en train de se développer des plans d'action et ensuite, nous allons développer aussi un plan d'action collectif. Donc, pour finir ma présentation, tout ça pour vous dire que oui, on a un document de 200 pages, mais ce qui est important, c'est le processus dans son ensemble, tout ce qu'on a appris comme communauté. Et puis, je crois que ce processus-là pourrait servir vraiment à tellement d'autres problèmes ou défis de notre communauté, comme l'immigration, aussi la culture autochtone, mais moi, je pense qu'on devrait aussi l'utiliser pour créer le dialogue entre toutes nos cultures ici au Nouveau-Brunswick. Merci.
Good morning. And I know I'm the last spot before lunch, so I will be as fast as I can. Thank you to the New Brunswick Social Policy Research Network for this opportunity to tell you about some of the challenges and opportunities that are facing the ICT sector in New Brunswick, or the Information and Communication Technology sector. I'm here, my name is Mary Milligan, and I'm project manager on a research project that's led by primary investigator Vanda Rideout, and I work with colleagues Dr. Angela Wisniewski and Alek Yadas. So we have been doing a research project. That's the full title. The team itself calls it the Digital Work Research Study, just because it's briefer. We are addressing concerns raised by the economic sector in New Brunswick that deals with the knowledge economy. And these companies were expressing a difficulty obtaining and retaining high-skilled digital workers. These are relatively good jobs. They tend to be permanent. They come with benefits. So our question is why? What's the problem? We're also developing a research construct that's going to supply a lot of information about what is generally an under-researched sector in the economy. So the design of the project is to solicit companies to participate. We recruited 3 companies who agreed to help us. We did some preliminary research and developed a bit of a profile, and then we issued a paper survey to each of the companies. We asked about company organizational structure, workforce characteristics, occupational profiles, hiring and training practices and challenges, and what the work environment was like. And then we did on-site interviews with directors and senior management, as well as employees. And we are currently in the last stage, which is the analysis of all the data that has come back from these 3 companies. We have completed it all for the first company, and we are working on the last 2. So what we've learned so far is that there's a huge variety of different jobs that fall into the digital work category. So what we've had to do is develop a construct to encompass that. We have to look beyond occupational categories and look at characteristics like the levels of education, the training and experience that's required, the level of work complexity, how much autonomy and control employees have over their work, and their degree of agency in their jobs. Our findings are, just briefly here, that management structure is very important to these highly skilled professionals. On the one hand, they can develop really great relationships with their immediate supervisors, but on the other hand, flattened management structures mean that there's very little upward mobility, and any promotion takes the person away from their area of technical expertise and requires that they have hybrid skills or soft skills, which is not necessarily their forte. Also, how the work is organized is really important. While on the positive side, they were saying flex time, the ability to work at home, that's all great. And they really like the efficiency of project management structures. On the downside, flex time implies 24/7 availability. And particularly when you have global clients, because it might be that your client time zone is 3 a.m. yours. And the difficulty with project models is sometimes the authority structures aren't very clear, and you can have an awful lot of management and an awful lot of workers and not a very clear line of communication between them. A second group of findings that were that they really value the challenging nature of their work. It uses what they were trained to do, it's changing daily, it's fast-paced, they like the constant learning, but the problems that they run into are all of those things in excess when constant change becomes churn and when the work environment requires more interaction than they are comfortable with. Finally, the location of New Brunswick. The positive aspects are New Brunswickers like to be where they're from. And people who come here from away appreciate some of the benefits of the lifestyle, shorter commutes, and more inexpensive housing. But it's very difficult for partners often to find relevant work. So when all of these little negatives start to pile up, it does mount to the point where people leave the profession and leave the province. So I won't say what's next because I think it's lunch. So thank you very much. I'm happy to talk to anybody about what we're doing.
Thanks so much to all the lightning presenters, and they were being shepherded by Lorna Lightning down there within very respectful of the time. So thank you all. We are ready for lunch, and so none of us want to stand in the way of that. As I remind you, Dr. Don Lenehan will be with us when we come back, and so feel free to enjoy, network, and do whatever you wish to do for the next hour, and we'll see you at 1. I'll give you a 2-minute warning when it's time to resume. Have a great lunch.